Hello, today we're going to be discussing coin problems. This is another area of a verbal problem solving question. So let's get right into it. On your notes you have a question talking about Mario had $6.50 consisting of dimes and quarters, and the number of quarters was 10 less than twice the number of dimes. How many coins of each kind did he have? So let's look at the first sentence. In looking at the first sentence, you will find your first equation. So 650 consisting of dimes and quarters. Now if we look down, I will have to have a let statement. You have to indicate which of your two variables is going to be dimes and which will be quarters. So there is my let statement. Take a moment and write that down in your notes. Now we know, because each coin has a different value, I have to represent that value with its cents. So since X is dimes, I have 0.10 times the number of those dimes and 0.25 Y. So I know that he has some amount of dimes and some amount of quarters. And I have to use the value of each coin. Okay, so I know that when we add them together it will equal 650. Now let's get to the second sentence. The number of quarters, now quarters is Y, was or is, and there's your equal sign, 10 less than twice the number of dimes. Now when we see these words less than, we must switch order, and that brings us to our next equation. Right here. Y equals 2x minus 10. So let's go back to that. Y equals 10 less than, and I know I'm going to have to switch the order, so something's going to be minus 10, twice the number of dimes. So my second equation, I'm good with that. Y equals 2x minus 10. Now let's go back to this first equation. Now the reason why I multiplied through by 100 is to get rid of that decimal. I don't like these decimal points hanging out here. It's going to make things very confusing. So a few months ago we talked about how to multiply through an equation by 100 to get rid of decimal points, which is what we did here. And that's what you should be doing every time you're doing a coin problem. So now I have my two equations. And we have to look at these two equations. So I have this equation and this equation, and see which method will work out well. Well, according to how we've been looking at our methods, it looks like substitution will work really well here. So that's how we're going to solve this. We're going to take what Y equals here and substitute it in where we see the X in the second equation. X. Y, right here. Then we have a coefficient before 2x minus 10, so we have to make sure we put the two-termed expression in parentheses. Okay, moving on. We distribute, we combine like terms, and we see that x equals 15. Now we're going back to how do we find our Y. So we have to find our Y, substitute in the value of x, and I see that I have Y equaling 20. Don't forget to answer your question. Your question says, how many coins of each kind did he have? So I answered the question, and now I'm going to do a very quick check. Now since we're dealing with money, I'm going to say, well, since I have 15 dimes, I say 15 times 10. And if I have 20 quarters, does the value equal $6.50? So our check is a little different when we're dealing with coins, okay? All right, let's take a minute to digest this, go through it again, and see if you understand it. Moving on. Don't forget to write your let statement. And here I'm talking about nickels and dimes, and the total dollar amount is $4.50. Again, I have to write the value of each coin, and I'm going to multiply through. Here I multiplied through by 100 to get rid of those decimals. And let's read on. That was my first equation, my first sentence. My second equation just says the number of dimes is twice the number of nickels. And it's a very simple equation. Don't make it more complicated than it is. So now I have my second equation. And I solved by substitution. This was kind of simple here. I substituted in what y equaled, combined like terms, and I wound up getting 18 for the number of nickels. Find y. Y is 36. Answer the question. Do your check and make sure both sides equal each other. So again, when we do our check, we are substituting in. I have 18 nickels, 36 dimes, and does the value of each one of those equal $4.50? And it does. All right, moving on. Reading the next problem, Ray has $5.70 in quarters and dimes. You have to write your let statement, so we did. We have quarters and dimes. I have dimes being X and I have quarters being Y. So the first equation will look something like this. There's my dimes, adding it to my quarters has a value of $5.70. I want to multiply through by 100 to get rid of those decimal points. Makes your life a lot easier. And now let's read the second part to find my second equation. The number of quarters, okay, that's my y, equals 6 more than plus the number of dimes x. Okay, well that was simple enough. I have y equals 6 plus x. Which method would you use? It seems that substitution will work well here. So showing substitution, making sure you put it in parentheses because we do have a number that goes before it, so we want to make sure we distribute. Combining like terms. Whoops. And dividing by 35, x equals. And at this point, you'll want to find your y. Now, I have a very simple equation that I'm going to use. I'm sorry, that was the previous question. 6 plus x, y equals 6 plus 12, y equals 18. To answer your question, I have 12 dimes and 18 quarters. Do a quick check and I'll leave you to do that. So you'll do your quick check. 12 times 10 cents plus 18 times 25 cents better equal $5.70. So double check that. And I think you guys can do 4 and 5. So good luck.